Hello, good evening, and welcome to the Invictus Racing League No Assist Championship here tonight at Montreal, Canada for the Canadian Grand Prix. Yes, tonight here we are at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve. Of course, my name is Gareth, otherwise known as Captain Stiff. You can find me in the F3 leagues on Wednesday night. And yeah, Montreal, one of my favourite circuits on the F1 calendar, especially to watch. You can always expect to see a decent race around this track, whether it be on esports or in IRL on a circuit. And it's definitely provided some fantastic racing in the past. Of course, Robert Kubica taking the first ever F1 victory for a Polish driver in 2008, a year after obviously he had that horrendous accident at the chicane. In the BMW Sauber. Jenson Button won the action-packed race here in 2011 after passing Sebastian Vettel on a final lap after being at the rear end of the grid twice during the race. The race had 5 safety car periods and a 2-hour delay due to the heavy rain. It has actually gone down as the longest race in history of 5 hours and 30 minutes. Jean Alesi took his first and only ever race win here in 1995. And Gilles Villeneuve, of course, who the track is named after, managed an entire lap around the circuit with his front wing lifted up over the cockpit and blocking his view. So superb driving for the famous Canadian Frenchman there. 1997, of course, saw Olivier Panis break both his legs, in a crash horribly in the first sector. And his replacement went on to be, of course, the famous Jarno Trulli, and it gave him great exposure, allowing him to move from Minardi. 2001 saw the only ever time in F1 history that brothers have finished first and second on the top step of the podium, as Ralf Schumacher took the win with Michael coming in second. So the only time we've ever seen brothers at the top of the podium. And of course, it's the final corner at 12 and 13. That's the Wall of Champions. It's taken victims such as Damon Hill, Jacques Villeneuve, Michael Schumacher, Jenson Button and Sebastian Vettel. But many, many more have lost out on the unforgiving concrete on the exit of turn 13. So tonight we are here and we are expecting a pretty decent race. We know we had an absolute cracker last week in Germany, and of course the guys look like they're readying up now. It was Humberstone who managed to pick up the win last week, and that makes it 7 different victors in 7 races so far this season. So we are yet to see a double winner so far in the Invictus Racing League No Assist Championship. So are we in store for the same tonight with a new winner coming to the fray, or will we see our first ever double race winner of the season? Speed Queen has moved to the top of the standings alongside Humberstone, as both sit on 47 points, with Speed Queen heading up the Tier 1 Championship, Humberstone heading up the Tier 2, but both of them in the joint currently sitting on 47 points. Scopefield is sitting in second with 41, whilst Scott, that's Boy Better Know SB, down in 40 points in third position. Still drivers in the mix, roughly not too far away. Delanger obviously on 35 points, SJD on 30 points, and you've got Joel V520 currently sitting on 26 points. So definitely potential for these guys to make a move up the table today if they get a better result. A little bit about the Canadian Grand Prix. Formula One's got a rich tradition in Canada, stretching back to 1967. The country first hosted a round of the World Championship. The first 10 years, the race was held at Mossbrook Park in Ontario. That held it for 8 races. Then we went on to Circuit Mont-Tremblant for 2 races before safety concerns saw the race move to the Ile Notre Dame circuit on the island, which is now located. It was renamed in 1982 after the tragic death of homegrown hero, as we were talking about before, Gilles Villeneuve, who won its inaugural 1978 race here in the Ferrari. And of course, his son Jacques went on to be the 1997 world champion in it, but unfortunately could only manage second here at the circuit of his father's name. We'll go on board here with Mike Sies. He's in the Ferrari tonight, heading out onto the circuits. Of course, the pit lane here at Montreal, quite an easy exit for the guys here, but it does feed out right into the corner. So the guys got to make sure when they're in race conditions here that you've got to watch out, especially if you're coming around the first and second corner, around Virage Senna, that you are paying attention to make sure if there's anyone on your left hand side, because I think you could be in for a nasty shock if you get to the point where you come out and there's a car scything down the outside of you trying to come out on that fresh rubber. And Mike here heading down through turns 6 and 7. DRS, of course, enabled now in the 2018 season, 3 DRS zones. As he goes down towards Le Pingle, that's the hairpin, turn 10 in front of all the adoring Canadian fans. It's a superb corner. If you ever go to see the Grand Prix, to go and sit at the hairpin, fantastic views of the cars coming in and the exit of the cars as he goes up the casino straight down towards turn 12 and 13 for the first time. Of course, we'll see if anyone gets caught out on that wall tonight, and does anyone. It's very, very easy to run, nicely run there for Mike through. Very easy to cut the corner at the last 2 corners at turn 12 and turn 13. It's Mike now on his flying lap, out on the super soft tyres, giving him a good representative time out there. Coming down towards turn 3 and 4 can be pretty tricky as well. Of course, the circuit not level, so you do find the car bottoming out ever so slightly, get it slowed down just in time for turn 6 here. Of course, this is where Jenson Button overtook Sebastian Vettel on the final corner in 2011 to take the race victory. Mike heading down, DRS wide open towards turn 8 and 9, get it tucked in just about, keeps it on the track surface. Down towards the hairpin for the first time on a flying lap. Hits the apex quite nicely there, runs out, uses as much of the track on the outside as possible. We've got 2 cars going side by side down Casino Street, so he might be able to get a bit of tow of DRS and slipstream down the straight. And Tony Y currently sets provisional pole for 1:10.7, so good lap there for Tony. As Mike comes down, he's going to set his first timed lap. He comes down across the start finish line now, and it's a 1:12.7, so that shows, I thought, well, you could say it looked like it was a pretty decent lap for Mike there, but Tony Y for 1:10.7 in the Tour, in a Red Bull, sorry, as SJD here bailing out of that lap, so we'll go on board. De Lange is coming down to the hairpin, locks up both tyres as he hits the braking point of the corner. Now up the casino straight for De Lange in the Force India tonight. He's had a decent season so far. He's currently sitting on 35 points, yet to pick up a race victory. Of course, he did pick up a 3rd place in Hungary. That's his only podium to date. So he comes down the final straight, coming across the line, and it's a 1:12.9. So 2 of the cars sitting in the 1:12s at the moment. It's Tony. As we check out Joel, and Joel goes top with a 1:10.282. Absolutely flying lap there for the Toro Rosso. And Joel V520, a man who's slowly trying to come back into form. He had a good result in France with a 2nd position, 4th in Italy. Unfortunately, could only pick up 10th in Great Britain before crashing out of Germany last week. And Joel currently sitting in provisional pole, and it looks like with Speed Queen doing a 1:14.7, so possibly a sloppy lap there for the current joint points leader in the championship as Speed Queen goes round, possibly setting another lap. We'll see. She seems to be going quite a pace for it if it was an in lap. Running, using all the tarmac on the exit of turn 4 there into turn 6 and 7. Of course, Montreal, it's a very technical circuit. It doesn't look as if it would be, but it's very easy to run wide, just clip some of these corners, get onto the dirty part of the track and kick up a little bit of dirt, get those tyres not as ripe as they should be. As Speed Queen comes down towards the hairpin once again, locks up both tyres. Will slightly compromise her a 10th or 2, not too much. We'll see if she does decide to go for this 2nd lap or if she bails out the end of the straight. Humbo Stone's currently out on the circuit doing his out lap, so we'll pick up him to see if he does. No, so Speed Queen stays out. She's going to set timed lap that's more competitive than what she's at the moment. She goes from a 1:14.7 up to a 1:11.388. So great lap there in the Sauber for Speed Queen 80, and Humbo Stone out there at the moment on the what looks like hypersoft tyres. So definitely going for what we'll do just quickly for you guys is just change the details. You can see, so it's Joel and Tony that set those times on the hypersofts. Scopes out on the ultra softs, and it was Speed Queen and Mike that set that time on the supers. So decent time there for Mike SI, won that 1:12.2 on the supers. Of course, with 11 drivers on the grid tonight, it means that only one person will start outside of that top 10, giving them the opportune tyre choice, but everyone else will start on the tyres they set their fastest lap on. So you might see a couple of guys deciding to, like Mike and like Speed Queen, set that time on the super softs and just see how far up the grid they can get themselves, to see if anyone else moves up above them, because there's definitely potential of differing strategies come race time. It's got a yellow in sector 3. Humbo Stone is going to come across the line, and he does a 1:10.504 on the hypersoft tyres, as Joel looks to be coming out on the ultra soft for an outlap, so he'll look to see if he can set a fast lap on the slightly harder compounder tyre, but a little bit more durable. Of course, guys, if you're watching the stream tonight, good evening. Nice to have you here. And if you've got any comments, feel free to drop them into the chat. More than happy to get engaged with you, as Tony picks up a five-place grid penalty for illegal blocking. That's a disaster for the Red Bull of Tony Y. A 5-place grid penalty, so that means everyone below him will be benefiting from that pretty much at the moment. So disaster there for the Red Bull driver so early on to the session. So we'll have to find out in the paddock afterwards what that was for, but it seems a pretty harsh penalty for him, and I'm sure he will be absolutely livid with that decision. And Humbo Stone currently cruising up the back straight, so we will try and pick up Jolfie 520, who's coming down the final corners. Doesn't look like he's on full throttle, so maybe not a flying lap for the leader so far. Looks like he's winding up to go for one just now. DRS wide open as he heads down towards turn 1 and 2. That's Virage, Senna. Keep it tight on the inside, roll out to the outside of the track. Give yourself as much room to head down towards turn 3 and 4. Get it turned in nice and tight. Do not run over that curb on the inside. Very easy to corner cut there. Of course, we saw Brendan Hartley have a huge crash with Lance Stroll this season at the exit of turn 4 there, into turn 5 and turn 6. And the Toro Rosso heading down towards turn 8 and 9. DRS wide open as he comes down. Nicely done there for the Toro Rosso driver, Joel F520, coming down towards their hairpin. Fans on all sides as he locks up the right front there. Compromise him ever so slightly, especially on that harder compounder tyre, but he will be able to run a little bit hard, of course. Not the nicest of days at the moment in Canada, here in Montreal. Slightly overcast and misty, you can see, so not the best track conditions for the guys on these soft tyres. And Joel's going to come down across the line, DRS wide open. He obviously thinks he's still got the pace to go quicker, and does he go quicker? He doesn't, so he stays at 1:22.82 at the moment on those ultra soft tyres, so not quite faster on the hard compound of tyres. Delanger heading down the back straight in the Force India, sitting on a 1:12.922 currently, and looks to have bailed out of that lap as well. So we'll go on board of SJD as he exits the final corner, heading down the main straight, and he goes second, puts it on the front row of the grid with a 1:10.286, 4 thousandths of a second behind Joel's time. SJD absolutely driving the tyres off of that Renault to pull it round in time. Put it on the front row of the grid provisionally with 7 minutes and 45 seconds left to go. That's a great lap there for the Renault driver. Of course, we're yet to see Scopefielder out on circuit. Scopefielder tonight, one of the title contenders, sitting on 41 points, did pick up that race victory in Bahrain. He's also had 2 podiums in Australia and in Italy. He's having a pretty consistent season, only 1 non-point score, and that was in Hungary. Unfortunately, he got caught up in a couple of accidents and incidents there, but Scopefielder definitely one to watch tonight. And equally, Nicky 995, who we know can be fast on his day, has had a lot of non-starts and disruption throughout the season, but has picked up a podium position in France, along with a seventh position in Silverstone, as SJD boxes his Renault and will go on board with Scopefielder, who's out there in the Williams. And will sit on board with the Williams driver as he heads down. You see, locks up the right front. That's going to compromise his exit there. Gets on the throttle pedal a little bit too early, so definitely a little bit of time lost there for the Williams driver. His heads up, looks to have possibly... We'll see if he's going to still set this time. No, so he bails out of that one, so losing a little bit too much time. You can see the Scopefielder revving the engine as he gets into the pit lane, not happy with himself at all. We'll go and check out Humbo Stone, who's coming down the casino straight towards the one, turn 12 and turn 13, and he bails out as well. So these guys not going any quicker. Mike SI setting a provisional pole time of 1:10.239, so the top three currently split by 0.05 of a second, showing just how close it's going to be here tonight. One of the shortest laps, of course, of the season now, 1:10. The distance to turn one here, 260 metres. It's the second shortest of the season, so the guys won't have much opportunity from the lights to go green to head down towards the main straight. And we'll quickly check on board with, it was Malk in the Renault tonight. Of course, Malk picking up the race victory last in Silverstone 2 races ago. Currently in the Renault as he heads down towards turn 3 and 4. The longest straight here is that casino straight. That's 1.16 kilometres, 0.7 of a mile. On the approach to turn 12, the guys will be hitting a top speed of around 208 miles an hour down that straight. 208, not the fastest the cars will be doing this season. Of course, they did do around 217, or minimum 217 in Monza. That's without the DRS assistance. The cars are at full throttle for 67% of the lap, so if you count Monza as 75%, you notice just how much it's a fast circuit around here. It definitely benefits these guys in the power advantaged cars. And the gear changes at 56 gear changes per lap. That's around 1,960 over the race distance, and it's 13 turns over 4.36, and that's 4.36 kilometres, 2.72 miles as Malk comes down into turn 1. Looks to have not gone any quicker, possibly, and has bailed out that one. So we'll go on board with Tony in the Red Bull. Of course, has set a provisional pole time already. This lap has been knocked down to 4th place, but he does have that 5-place grid penalty sitting with him. So unfortunately for Tony, he's looking at the moment, if he doesn't improve, it looks like he might be starting outside of the top 10, with Scopefielder yet to set a competitive time. And the problem is that even the fact that Tony's got that penalty, if he finishes within the top 10, he won't get the opportunity of, or I don't believe he'll get the opportunity of starting on fresh rubber. That obviously citation needed on that one. But Tony heading down towards the hairpin there. Oh, a big lock up on the right hand side for the Red Bull. It's going to compromise his time massively as he heads up the casino straight. DRS wide open for the Red Bull driver. He's going to now pull to the left hand side of the track, give yourself the best line heading into the final 2 corners, turn 12 and 13. We've got yellow in sector 2. We'll check that out in a minute if it doesn't clear, and Tony's going to come across the line, and he does go pole. A 1:09.968. Absolutely fantastic lap there for the Red Bull. So even more of a reason to be absolutely livid with the steward's decision to award him that 5-place grid penalty. Jolfie 520 currently out on circuit as well. Obviously he's been knocked off the pole. Almost hitting the wall of champions there, very close for the Toro Rosso driver. He comes across the line, he's going to start his flying lap. A little bit of a lock up ever so slightly on the right front there. You can see that plume of smoke just about puffing up from the tyre as he heads down through turn 1, turn 2, up to turn 3 and 4. We know Joel is getting absolutely everything out of that Toro Rosso tonight. The Honda power in that car giving him quite a decent amount of power and speed. Of course, more than what we would be used to. But Joel getting every single inch of power out of that engine as he heads round this famous circuit down towards Lepingle. That's the hairpin. Here he is now at turn 10. Kisses the apex beautifully on the exit, and the Renault's going to get out of the way, so not far enough up the road for Joel to get any sort of advantage coming his way when it comes to any sort of straight. Nicky retiring from the session in 7th position at the moment as Joel comes down final 2 corners. Brilliant exit out of there. It's going to be a really quick run to the line for the Toro Rosso, and he goes second with a 1.9987. So once again the top 2 split by less than 1/100th of a second, so 9,000ths of a second sitting between the top 2 at the moment. So these guys are really in form tonight. Of course, with 59 seconds left to go, Mama Fisher, we didn't manage to catch setting his time earlier. That's 1:11.1. He retires from the session down in 9th as well. Humberstone at the moment on that 1:10.006. It was a little bit over eager on the curb there on the exit of turn 8 and turn 9 as he heads down towards the turn 10. Of course, that jet black helmet for Humberstone in the Haas tonight, and he looks to possibly have, we'll see, looks like he may have got slower. And Tony Y going faster again, a 1.97. Tony is so locked in this evening. You can just see how much speed he's got. He's going to be absolutely devastated. You can see how much pace he's got, but what it does is we are going to have to watch out for him in the race as Humberstone goes up in sits third. Sorry, SJD moves up into 4th position with a 1:10.008. We'll see who else is on board. Mike is coming up to finish his lap as well. Time has now expired on the session. The Ferrari is going to come up to the final corner. Runs nicely over. Nicely done there for the Ferrari. He's going to come across the line. Mike currently sitting in 5th, and he doesn't improve. So Mike sitting 5th. Scopefielder can only manage 6th position. And it's Malk that's coming down the casino straight now. He's currently sitting in 8th position, out on a fresh set of the hyper soft tyres. And we'll see, does he go any faster? No, so Malk bails out of it as well. So he's going to finish in 9th position. Currently, Humberstone, I don't believe is going any quicker. I don't believe SJD is going any quicker also. So it looks like that may be our grid for this evening, bar the Tony Y 5-place grid penalty that he picked up earlier in the session. So a real unfortunate there for Tony Y. I'm sure Christian Horner will be marching up to Charlie Whiting and the stewards and asking why he was given that blocking penalty, and especially 5 grid penalty is just quite a brutal one for him to take this evening. So definitely a bitter pill for the Scotsman there. Of course, the circuit is a tortuous mix of slow corners and long straights. Breakaway around here is pretty high, so the guys, although it's only the 50% race that we are doing this evening, they've got to watch out, make sure that they're not overheating those tyres, overheating those brakes, because it really can punish these cars here. There's 4 occasions where we go from very high speeds to very low speeds, so you need to make sure you've set up the car with good traction to be competitive. Downforce levels around here, around medium to low, quite similar to how the car's set up for Spa. Although it does seem like a vastly different circuit, obviously the fast into slow speed does make a difference. As you see there, Tony picks up pole position with the 1.97. Unfortunately, takes that 5-place grid penalty. Joel V520 will be your pole sitter with Humberstone alongside him. With SJD will take 3rd, Mike will take 4th, Speed Queen will take 5th, Delanger will take 6th, Scope will take then there. I think Tony will then slot in there. Then you'll take Scope in 8th, Malk in 9th, Nicky 9095 in 10th, and Mama Fisher will start at the back of the grid with that tyre choice advantage in 11th place. So definitely an interesting dilemma for some of the guys here. Of course, those hypersoft tyres, they are not built to last. They do degrade just beyond belief quickly, so you've got to make sure you get the most out of them whilst you can, because you won't be on them for too long. So the guys that qualified on the ultra soft and the super soft tyres will definitely have an advantage when it comes to strategy choice, whether they go for, of course we tend to see the guys around here do probably the two stop. It will be a monumental effort if you were to pull out the one stop. And you'd say the trickiest part of the circuit really is that turn 12 and turn 13, that final chicane. It's very high speed. It's actually taken around 150 kilometers. That's almost 95 miles an hour at the first apex, and it actually increases. So by the exit, or you're actually doing around 124 miles an hour. That's almost 200 kilometers an hour. And there's quite high curbs to prevent those cars from cutting, as we've seen in the past. And of course, if you do find yourself going wide into that first corner, you do have to go around the bollard on the exit that pulls you in, slows you down pretty considerably. We saw it in F2. We've seen in F2 and F1 both times that cars tend to get caught out around that final chicane. It's very easy for the guys at the end of that long DRS straight to get it slowed down in time. The grip levels around here, it's quite low. The track is used very infrequently, so it's quite slippery early in the weekend. The track evolution doesn't come in till quite late in the session. The track surface is also very bumpy, making it easy for the drivers to make a mistake. But the greatest amount of lap times they can find, where they'll find themselves making up the distance, will be under braking. Of course, on 4 occasions around the lap, the cars shave off more than 200 kilometers an hour. That's 125 miles an hour on the brakes. So late and consistent braking performance is really important. And of course, your braking also affects your corner exit, because the cars need to hit those apexes if they're going to maximize traction on the exit of each corner. So whilst the guys just select their setups, and whilst they discuss with their race engineers how they're going to do for session, obviously we'll just wrap up last race in Germany. Of course, we did have slight PSN issues, unfortunately meant that there was no stream available, and equally that Joel, Scott and Nicky couldn't make the race. They actually disconnected from qualifying into the race, so it was a real unfortunate one there, because obviously Joel and Scott both in the championship hunt. But Humberstone took his first victory of the season after 2 second positions in Australia and Bahrain. So Humberstone delighted to be on the grid as the guys look to be readying up for the race now. Speed Queen came in second, and her return to form is definitely back on track after she suffered a couple of poor races towards the start of the season, a DNF in Australia and a couple of 5th positions, and of course now she's back up where we're used to seeing her currently after taking that race victory in Italy. And if you haven't seen any of our races so far this season, I would definitely recommend you go back and look over on our YouTube channel at Invictus Racing League that the Italian Grand Prix No Assist Championship Monza, or Italian Grand Prix, it was absolutely fantastic with racing up and down the grid, and really decent overtakes from these guys as they head out on their parade lap and on their warm-up lap. You can see the sun is shining here in Montreal today, so much better conditions for the race, so will benefit these guys on the hyper soft tyres. We'll just double check for you. As you can see, the tyre changes for everyone, so you've got Joel will start on the hypers, Humberstone will start on the ultra soft, so shows just how quick he was on those ultra soft tyres. SJD all the way down to Scopefielder will be on the hypersoft, so Mike, Speed Queen and Tony on the hypers, De Langer on the hypers, ultras for Scope, ultras for Malk and Nicky, whilst Mama Fisher deciding to go long, and he will start on the super soft tyres. So it will be interesting to see what progress Mama Fisher can make on those harder compounded tyres. Of course, these hypers will rocket off of the starters. We're starting to get the DQs that we've seen quite frequently due to slow speed on the formation lap, but shouldn't be an issue for these guys here. You can see them weaving side to side, trying to get some heat and life into those tyres before the race start. Of course, as I said before, only a 260 metre run down to turn 1, so Joel will just have to make sure that he tries to keep Humberstone behind him, heading down towards turn 1. Can be a bit of a, we've seen of course in the past some absolutely horrendous accidents. Of course, Alex Verts, I believe it was 1998 in the Benetton, rolling the car into the turn 1. We're stuck. There we go. Finally, Joel V520 with 4 lights, 5 lights, and we are off and away at the Canadian Grand Prix. Smoke appearing from all the tyres. Joel's got a great start there for against Humberstone, who's going to slow down. We've got the car's just about all getting through quite nicely and tidy for everyone on the grid so far. Joel leads the group away, with Humberstone second, SJD third, Speed Queen in fourth, Mike's dropped down to fifth, Delanger's up to sixth, Tony's dropped down, Scope has dropped down, Malk's moved up, and Mama Fisher moving up 1 position from 11th into 10th position as Joel leads the field away. You can see there Mama Fisher moving up into 9th place now, so moving up ahead of Malk, so great start there for Mama Fisher. The Renault of SJD goes wide there out the exit of turn 9, and that's going to allow Speed Queen to have a look at the inside going into the hairpin. Is she going to do so? She's definitely going to have a look at the inside. Gets a tighter line. That's going to be a drag up the Casino Straight for the 2 as the Sauber's going to tuck in behind the Renault. Heading up the Casino Straight, she's going to get a whole load of slipstream, and it's going to be very brave for these two to go side by side through into turn 12 and 13 for the first time. She decides better of it. And we complete our first lap. You can see there Humberstone kissing the exit of the Wall of Champions on the first lap there as Joel leads the field away. These two still battling for third and fourth. It's SJD 1988 and Speed Queen 80. Speed Queen looking very racy on those Hypersoft tyres in the Sauber tonight. And we'll sit and we'll just watch from Speed Queen's point of view. At the moment, sitting 0.2 of a second behind the Renault. They come into the clutches. Humberstone, who's slowly starting to fall behind. So SJD now starting to catch up to the pass of Humberstone ahead. So we almost have a 3-car battle for second, third and fourth at the moment. And I think these guys will just be... you can see SJD still not quite getting the exit of turn 8 and turn 9 at the moment. These guys will just be waiting for the moment that the race stewards turn on. Speed Queen going for a little bit of a look at the inside there. Williams getting very close to the rear end of Tony Y as well. Yeah, so as I was saying, these guys waiting for DRS to be activated. It's so powerful around this track, especially down this long straight, as they just about get it slowed down in time for the corners. We'll quickly check down. We've got battles going down throughout the grid. SJD setting the fastest lap of the race so far, 1:13.6 on that second lap. So currently SJD the quickest man on track, following Humberstone. Nicky picks up a 3-second time penalty. Nicky down in 11th position at the moment. Not the greatest start for him. We've got a good battle here between Malk, Delanger, Tony and Scopefielder, between 5th and 8th position, with Scopefielder starting to come onto the back of this train as they head down towards turn 8 and 9 for the 3rd time. Of course, DRS will be activated at the end of this lap. We'll just check. 0.3 of a second behind between Tony and Delanger as we go down towards turn 10. Force India turning in. He's allowed himself a little bit of space there, so Tony will definitely be quite racy behind him. We know that Tony's got the pace today after being so quick in qualifying. Of course, did pick up a provisional pole, but unfortunately that penalty dropped him down. The Force India is going to go down the inside of Mike going into the final corner. Great move there for the Force India, and that's going to really compromise Mike's exit for him as Humbo goes quickest, 1:13.4. And the Ferrari's going to have that Red Bull right in his wings. He doesn't. Tony decides against it in that turn 1. We'll quickly check with Speed Queen, who's still sitting behind SJD in the Renault as they exit turn 4, heading round turn 5 at Pont de la Concorde into turn 6 and 7. Small luck up there for the Renault. Looking back at the rear end, you can see the DRS wide open now for Speed Queen. She heads down towards turn 8 and turn 9. That flap shuts closed again down towards turn 10. Of course, this is where That BMW Sauber for Robert Kubica had that massive accident in 2007 as she gets a nice exit out of the hairpin. That's going to set her up quite nicely to have a look at the back of the Renault going down towards turn 12. Knocking it up, I imagine, into Rich Revs. Not quite close enough this time, and it will be interesting to see with 35 laps in this race, how long can these guys on the Hypersoft tyres get them to last. And she's much closer this time. She's going to look to the outside, going down towards into turn 1. It'd be a very brave move around the outside here. Obviously it would turn into the inside. SJD closes the door there, so doesn't make it easy for her. He's not going to make sure that she just gets a free pass, and it's definitely going to be an interesting race of Speed Queen. We know that she's going to want to get past the Renault driver, but how can she utilise that Sauber power? Of course, that Ferrari engine in the back of that Sauber cuts the corner ever so slightly at turn 6 there, so might have compromised her ever bit. DRS wide open still for her as she heads down towards turn 8 and turn 9. Good exit there as these two still going at it as they have done all race long. Humberstone now right on the back of Joel for the race lead, and we'll just quickly check. There's Joel and Humberstone battling over the race lead at the moment. Joel must have lost a little bit of time. He was around a second ahead of Humberstone, but Humbo starting to come back at the Toro Rosso, and he's got DRS as they head down the back straight towards the final corner. It'd be a really brave move. It's going to be a late lunge for Humberstone for the lead. They're going to go side by side. Doesn't quite get a move there. Superb defending from Joel for 520 into the turn 12, turn 13 complex there, and I'm sure there are a lot of clenched teeth and outdraws of breath there from the pit wall of the Toro Rosso and Haas teams as they saw their cars go side by side through turn 12. We don't tend to see that much because it usually ends up with one of the cars ending up in the wall of champions, as Humberstone still 0.6 of a second behind Joel V520 as we head around lap 6. He's still sitting within DRS. We look back there and you can see that Toro Rosso, he's got that shadow just behind him that's got those Haas colours. Gunther Steiner will be in the earpiece of Humberstone, telling him just to not make any silly mistakes, not take any risks he doesn't need to. He's obviously got the pace to keep up with him, and we know Humberstone's on the ultra soft tyre compared to Joel on the hypersoft, so Humbo will have slightly better tyre advantage when it comes to his grip. So Humbo definitely starting to look a little bit more racy. Of course, these guys on the hypers will be taking the life out their tyres. Who will blink first when it comes to the pits? No, not this lap for anyone. It does look like it was SJD dives in, so SJD is the first one to come in and take off those hypersoft tyres. We'll look to see, does he go on to a set of ultrasoft and decide to go for the 2-stop, or is it a long way on the supersoft for the Renault driver? It's the ultrasoft tyre, so it's going to be a 2-stop strategy for SJD in the Renault as he heads down on the exit turn. You can see he's dropped down to 10th position, so these guys still pretty close to each other at the moment, so race position will be crucial come the pit lane dashes, because you'll find yourself coming out into a lot of traffic. We've got a yellow in sector 1. That's been cleared quickly. Joel and Humbo still going at it. 0.3 of a second split them at the moment as we head down towards turn 10. Humbo's taking a much wider line. Oh, as they touch going into the corner. We'll look to see if that's given Humberstone any wing damage, which is really well, it's a huge problem here around here, which you obviously rely on your cornering speed. And is they going to go side by side once again? Does Joel come in this time? No, he doesn't. He concedes the position, so he's realised that Humbo's got the quicker tyre. He's got the advantage, but it does mean that he's going to have the run down towards turn 1. These two still battling, but it looks like Humbo may have, or as Joel slightly overcooks it on the exit there, he's going to lose a little bit of time. Nicky picking up a 3-second penalty there. Joel looking like he's just going to sit in second position at the moment, try and sit close enough to Humbo that he can keep him with DRS. And of course these guys, as Tony Y goes fastest 113.287 in the Red Bull, these guys stretching out their lead at the moment over Delanger, 3.5 seconds behind. And we've seen Tony Wise come in and made a stop. So Speed Queen, and so is Mike. So Speed Queen trying to get the overcut on SJD. Unfortunately didn't work. SJD has managed to jump ahead, and unfortunately has put or unfortunately for Speed Queen, SJD is a car ahead as Mama Fisher has managed to get ahead, and of course with him on his 7-lap old super soft tyres, he will go much longer, so she'll have to get past him if she plans to move up back ahead of the Renaults. Joel comes into the pits, so it is a stop for the pole man in the Toro Rosso. Currently out on surface, on track surface. The only ones that are still out there on the starting hypersofts is DeLanger 93 out in the Force India. He's being swarmed by Scopefielder in the Williams at the moment, and so you can see just how much pace he's been learning. We'll see if this is a plan for as Tony picks up a 3-second time penalty. So Tony's session here not going to plan, of course, being so quick in qualifying. He's now sitting in 10th position. So not a great race so far for Tony in the Red Bull. As Speed Queen picks up at that 3-second time penalty. We did see her running over the curbing on the entry of turn 6. So yeah, these guys here, they've got to be careful. The track stewards around here, they are pretty harsh and pretty brutal when it comes to track limit extensions. And we still see here DeLanger 93 defending from Scopefielder, but Scope's going to get DRS. But of course, that Force India has got so much more straight line speed than the Williams. As we go down the Casino Straight, you can see just how much more he's pulled out ahead of the Williams. Does he dive into the pit lane at the end of this lap? It looks like he might do. He doesn't, so staying out another lap. So really stretching these hyper soft tyres out. So he's possibly looking at doing that one stop and taking these hypers as long as possible and then going on to supers. But it would be a monumental effort if that was the case, as you can see just how much he was struggling to get around turn 1 and turn 2 there. Slightly slow, you can hear him knocking it down a gear, probably slower than what he would be wanting to do around turn 3 and 4 there. Goes deep into turn 6. That's going to compromise his exit. It means Scopefielder is going to get DRS and be right up behind the Force India as they head down towards turn 8 and turn 9. Not close enough to get a move done as Tony Pye picks up another 3-second time penalty. So Tony, unfortunately, his race going from bad to worse at the moment. He's starting to get in a bit of trouble with the stewards. Oh, as you see the Williams getting right up behind that Force India. But once again, we'll see the Force India have that slight power advantage on the exit, but it looks like the Williams is much closer this time. And Scopefielder, you can see DeLanger trying to defend. It's going to have to be a late dive. Or it's not. It's the Scopefielder decides against it, realises that he has got the speed. He just needs to make sure that it's the right move. He does want to throw it into a corner that he's not welcome. As Nicky gets another, that's 9 seconds of penalties for Nicky 9095. As Scopefielder trying everything to get around DeLanger. They're going to go side by side through turn 2. DeLanger just about keeping ahead as Speed Queen does 113.254 in the Sauber, going quickest of the race so far. These two still battling it out over second and third position at the moment. Scopefielder, of course, starting on the harder compounded tyres. They've both done 10 laps since the start. Scopefielder be absolutely desperate to get past the Force India, knowing that this will be wrecking his race and his strategy. He needed to get past the guys on the hypers early and start to stretch out that lead, because all that's happening at the moment is DeLanger is allowing himself that window of opportunity when it comes to making that pit stop as he's stretching out the lead. And what he will be doing, though, is backing up himself and Scopefielder into the clutches of the guys that were behind. Of course, with Scopefielder not being able to get past, it does mean that it will be slowing up them, or whilst they battle, and letting everyone else that stopped early kind of catch up a little bit. And Scopefielder once again can't make it past, but he doesn't need to now. DeLanger comes in, and that frees up Scopefielder to finally get some DRS and stretch out his ultra soft stint as far as possible. And we'll see how far down. At 93 drop, he goes down between SJD, Speed Queen, Joel, who's dropped down to 6th position as well. So Joel on the super soft tyres. He's been jumped by SJD and Speed Queen. So Joel dropping down to 6th position. Effectively, it's SJD that's leading the race so far, with Speed Queen in 2nd position. Joel was in 3rd. whilst Humberstone out there at the moment, 11 laps on the ultra soft tyres, 9 seconds ahead of Scopefielder, who's currently 6 seconds ahead of Nicky 9095. Nicky unfortunately picking up a little bit of trouble with the stewards so far, so I believe Nicky will be dropping down quite a distance, because you can see just how close some of the guys are behind at the moment. So Nicky would definitely be dropping down to around 8th position if the race ended on this lap, which of course it won't. We still have plenty of racing left to go here at the No Assist Championship with Invictus Racing League. Scopefielder going down, we'll see that this first flying lap without being stuck behind someone. He's still 9.6 seconds behind Humberstone. So of course these guys both on the ultra soft tyres, so it'll be interesting to see what their lap comparisons are. Looking like Humberstone might have the edge over Scopefield. Of course he is in the house compared to the Williams power around here, that currently 9.6 seconds. He sat around that time consistently over a lap and a half, so Scopefielder not being able to make any inroads on the leader at the moment. And De Lange did come in for those super soft tyres, so he is trying to go for that one stop. Equally, you see Joel trying to do that as well, but Joel, having done 4 laps on those super softs already compared to De Lange's, now he's only on his first, so it's quite possible that he could be going the distance. But for Joel, it could be, that's a tall order for him to take those tyres around 20 laps at least. So the Williams here heading down turn 1, turn 2, turn 12 and 13, across the line. And Nicky picks up his 4th penalty of the evening, so much like Fernando Alonso in Abu Dhabi, Nicky just deciding what part of the circuit he is and isn't going to be driving around today. And we'll check quickly. I'm sorry, stuck on board, didn't see how much these three were battling between themselves. We've got the SJD, Nicky and Speed Queen all battling over 3rd, 4th and 5th at the moment. Man Fisher picks up a 3-second time penalty. SJD's managed to dispatch Nicky for 3rd position. Speed Queen's now all over the rear end of the Toro Rosso as we head down towards turn 8 and turn 9. You can see what a brilliant camera angle that is there from the rear diffuser of the Toro Rosso. Well, going really wide there. You can tell why he may have 12 seconds of penalties there. That was really ragged from the Toro Rosso driver. SJD locks up going down into the hairpin, and that's going to allow... Whoa, you can see just how much more speed Speed Queen has got against Nicky as they go down the casino straight. She's going to pull out DRS assisted. I imagine she's up in overtake mode. They go side by side down into turn 12. Nicky bails out off of the ultra soft tyres, so he is in off the ultras. Humberstone is in off the ultras. So Speed Queen, SJD currently are your leaders of the Grand Prix. SJD in the Renault. As you see just how close it's going to be. He's going to come around the outside, and these two are going to fight over 2nd position. Humberstone coming out of the lead. Oh, they're going to go side by side down into turn 3 and turn 4. Brilliant defending there for Humberstone on those fresh tyres. Just about keeps Speed Queen behind, but she's not going to give up at all. She knows she needs to get the move done. She can see the fact that he's on the red striped super soft tyre. She needs to get this move done quickly if she's going to stretch out any kind of lead on this advantage on this 2-stop strategy, while she knows that Humbo will be going for that 1 stop by the looks of it. Well, unfortunately for her, it's Humberstone that gets out ahead, so doesn't quite manage to take the effective lead of the race. Unfortunately was jumped by SJD by 7/10 of a second, so shows just how strong Humberstone was through that first stint, that he only just missed out on retaking the lead of the race straight away after the pit stop. Nicky picking up his 5th penalty of the race. That's 15 seconds so far for Nicky 9095 as Scopefielder comes in to pit off of those ultra soft tyres. Look to him to go on to those red super softs as well any second now, and he does. So the red striped super softs for Scopefielder, and the top 3 currently split by 1 second, with 0.6 of a second from SJD to Humberstone. Speed Queen 0.3 of a second back to Humberstone at the moment. Joel 520 currently will be livid with himself, leading the race to start with, and he's been jumped by 3 cars. SJD, Humberstone and Speed Queen all sitting ahead of him. Humberstone picking up a 3-second time penalty, so Humberstone and Speed Queen currently both sitting on 3 seconds of penalties. I don't believe SJD has had anything so far, so if he can keep it clean, it's definitely advantage for the Renault driver, whereas these three are still going at it for the top 3 positions. Slight luck up there for the Haas driver. It's going to allow the Sauber behind to get a much better run. You can see she's going to be tucked right in behind the Haas going up the Casino straight. It looks like a really good opportunity here for Speed Queen if she's going to get the move done. She's tucked up right behind, but she doesn't look like it'd be a real late lunge. Very, very brave. She decides against it, get a good exit out of turn 13, and she does, and that's going to set her up very nicely to head down towards turn 1 side by side. She's going to try and go around the outside. That's going to turn into the inside of turn 2. What do they do? It's very nicely done there for Humbo, who you can see he's just been defending brilliantly all race long. Whether it's getting moves done on Joel up in first and second earlier in the race, or if it's trying to keep the current championship leader behind. Of course, Humberstone and Speed Queen are your championship leaders at the moment, both sitting on 47 points. So this is the battle that we've been waiting for. These two one-on-one, trying to get each other, as Mike picks up a 3-second time penalty, but these two going at it for position, knowing that whoever gets the result takes the lead of the championship going into the next round in Spa-Francorchamps. And he's gone deep. Humberstone goes majorly deep into turn 10 now. It's going to really allow the Sauber to close up behind, knock it up into overtake mode. DRS is going to be wide open. Of course, DRS is activated for the Haas as well. So, but this time it looks like the Sauber's going to go side by side down into the turn. They're going to go side by side. And Humberstone has to concede. He runs over the rumble strips on the entry of turn 12. But that means that Speed Queen has now moved up into second position, and she can now start to chase down the Renault of SJD 1988. These two, of course, on the ultra soft tyre. They still have to make one more stop, whilst Humberstone can probably stretch those tyres out to the end of the race if he's careful on them. He knows that he doesn't want to let these two get too far ahead, though. You can see, though, Speed Queen is just absolutely electrifyingly fast this evening. She's cruised up to the rear end of SJD, and she's going to be within DRS heading down towards turn 8 and turn 9. Side by side, not quite. She's almost there. A lock up there for SJD and the Renault. These two are going to head down towards turn 10, and Speed Queen is going to be all over the gearbox of that Renault going down this corner. It would be a really brave lunge down into the hairpin there, but the lock up there for the Renault driver. All that's going to do is open the eyes even wider for Speed Queen and the Sauber, realising that he's going to be taking more life out of those tyres than she is. Of course, SJD stopping one lap earlier on the in the race to come off those tyres, so Speed Queen's tyres slightly younger than SJD's, but only slightly. Humberstone now starting to come back at the top 3. His Super Softs obviously starting to get a little bit more heat into them. These top 3 still battling, but what has happened now is it's invited Joel V520 back into the fray. He's now back in the fight for the lead of the race, and we now have a 4-car battle for first place at the moment, with a Renault, a Sauber, a Haas and a Toro Rosso all vying over the race win tonight. And with lap 19 currently being undertaken, we are now over halfway through the race. Speed Queen almost nose to tail with the Renault heading down into turn 8 and turn 9. That's compromised their exit, allowing Humberstone to look at the rear end of that Sauber once again, but Joel's gonna, you can see these top 4 really going at it, and this is why the Invictus Racing League No Assist Championship is something special. It really is just wheel to wheel battling throughout the entire session. These guys absolutely on the edge lap after lap, and they offer up some absolutely scintillating entertainment for us all. Crossing line, 1, 2, 3, 4, all 4 going down within 1 second, or just under over 1 second of each other across the line. Tony Y coming in to pit off of the ultra soft tyres. We stay on board to Speed Queen, and she's still in the gearbox of that Renault. She cannot shift past the other car. He's going to run slightly wide there. These 4 still pushing hard, trying to get past Scope for SJD. possibly holding up the pack here a little bit. Oh, you can see the Sauber's going to be really, really racy out on the exit of turn 7 here towards turn 8. The DRS is going to be wide open. Is she going to make the move down into turn 8? She decides against it, realises there's not enough room for 2 cars through that corner, especially at the moment where if you've got 4 cars all vying over first position, you don't want to make any rash decisions, because one false move and one silly mistake, you'll find yourself losing 1 or 2 positions easily, because even if SJD or Speed Queen make any silly mistakes, they will be gobbled up immediately by the 2 behind. Speed Queen looking very racy behind. It's just going to be really close this lap as Speed Queen and SJD both coming in off that off of the ultra soft tyre, so they're coming in for their second stint on another set of ultra softs. That allows Humbo Stone and Joel Fee 520. Joel picking up a 3-second time penalty as well, so Joel and Humbo Stone both with that 3-second time penalty. These 2 re-engaging their battle for the lead, and of course both of them on the super soft tyre, meaning they're both looking to go to the end. But look at that difference of of laps led on the laps raced on the tyres. Humbo Stone only 6 laps on the super softs, Joel on 12 at the moment, as Delanger 93 picks up a 3-second time penalty, currently sitting in 3rd. So obviously that long stretch on the Hypersofts at the start, he's moved up into 4th position at the moment. Scopefielder has actually done quite nicely coming up through the grid as well. Very quiet race for Scopefielder, sitting 11 seconds behind the leaders at the moment, but he's moved up into 3rd position, and having gone onto the super soft tyres only 5 laps ago, he's given himself a great shout at a podium finish today. But Speed Queen and SJD will be absolutely lightning fast, as we see here. We'll quickly go down and check out SJD's progression as Humbo Stone does the fastest lap of the race so far with 1:13.1. SJD chasing behind as Tony Y picks up another 3-second time penalty. Not the greatest race for Tony Y. He's not going to be happy with his session at all as SJD. He doesn't want to make any silly mistakes here. He's got a bit of a gap over Speed Queen. His exit of the his outlap of the after his second stop much better than Speed Queen's. He's currently got a 1.5 second lead. Of course, Speed Queen followed him in after about 0.2 of a second, so possibly a slow stop for the Sauber team there. This Renault needs to get past this Force India's. Mama Fisher picks up another 3-second time penalty. Mama Fisher currently sitting in 9th position at the moment on the ultra soft tyre. I will have a look through as Nikki and Mike swap positions over 7th and 8th. We will stay on board with SJD following Delanger 93 as he locks up deep into turn 10 there. It's not going to give him the best of exits. Of course, like we said before, that Force India is pretty powerful in this straight line, but he's going to be tucked in. Delang weaving side to side, trying to knock off as much slipstream as possible against the Renault. The Renault's going to pull out to the side. He's going to get the nicer line through the final 2 corners, and it's going to set up the Renault quite nicely down the main straight as they head down towards turn 1. Not quite close enough, and you can see start playing that Jaws theme tune because Speed Queen is starting to close them down. You can see just how much Delanger is holding up the Renault, and it's allowing Speed Queen to close up behind her race-long battle partner. And these 3 currently fighting, and Joel currently joining the back once again. So Joel, he's come in and decided to come off of those super soft tyres. He realised that he wasn't going to go any quicker than Humbo Stone, so it's kind of freed up Humbo Stone to go to the end of the race, and it's really up to these 3 to get past the Force India and start to attack Scopefielder and Humbo Stone. You can see a slight lock up in the right front there for the Force India. Force India, Renault, Sauber, Toro Rosso, these 4 battling over what is currently 3rd position. Delanger is probably going to the end on those super soft tyres, but the Renault tucked in right behind him. tries to cover off the first corner, but he's not going to get it done. The Renault's going to go side by side. They're going to go side by side round turn 1, turn 2, round virage centre, but that's allowed. Speed Queen, thank you very much, he says to SJD. You compromised yourself on the exit to turn 1, and what she's done is just take advantage of that. She moves up the inside into turn 3 and 4. And now she gets to take a go ahead as Nikki picks up another time penalty. So, SJD, absolutely terrible exit there out of turn 6, and it means that Joel has moved up past him, so the Renault driver losing 2 positions in less than a sector and a half. Will quickly sit on board with Joel here as he follows the Speed Queen 80 down towards turn 10. Does he get it slowed down in time? He does. Of course, Joel and SJD on those ultra soft tyres. Speed Queen on another set of super softs, or on a set of super softs I should say, sorry. So the purple wall tyres will have the advantage at the moment, especially Joel at the moment, who's only done, well, he's now coming onto his second lap. We've got a yellow in sector 3. It's a DNF for Tony Y, who looks to have retired in the pit lane, possibly a mechanical issue there. Obviously his race pace. Speed Queen and DeLange touch as we head into turn 1, and that's going to allow Joel possibly past. No, DeLange getting the move past. Great sportsmanship there for Joel V520, noticing that these two ahead. It wasn't an intentional overtake or an intentional touch contact between the two drivers, so he allows them to slot back into position. But poor exit there, and that's going to allow SJD not too far behind to have a look at them, and we'll quickly go back out on broadcast, and we see SJD watching this battle unfold ahead of him. But Speed Queen and DeLange getting tangled up with each other heading down into turn 1 as they're still fighting over exit, and it looks like Speed Queen has finally got the move done on DeLange 93 heading down the fire onto Casino Straight, but he's going to be tucked in behind her once again with DRS. He's going to come down side by side heading down into the final corner. Does he make the move? Done. They're going to go side by side, and that's going to compromise him on the exit, and it means the Taurus are going to come side by side with him as well. They are going almost 2-3 wide down into turn 1, and Joel looking to go up the inside. He does get the move done, but DeLange's going to come down the inside. Do they touch ever so slightly? But the Renault's going to look down the inside of the Force India as they head up towards turn 3. Superb racing here for these guys. And DeLange moving from 3rd to 6th in what feels like 6 corners. So really unfortunate there, but some absolutely fantastic racing from these guys here. SJD moving up past DeLange. Joel making use of DeLange and Speed Queen going side by side through turn 12 and turn 13. He got the move done down the main straight, and now he's starting to look at the rear end of the Sauber once again. Of course, he's on that faster compounded tyre. He's on that ultra soft tyre compared to the super soft, so they will go off quicker. So he needs to get this move done and start to stretch a little bit of a gap over Speed Queen, because she will be quick later in the race compared to him. He's going to start to struggle for grip. And you can see Mike and Malk at the back at the moment, 18 and 16 laps on those super soft tyres. So it's starting to get into a position where they're going to really have to keep those tyres within a working temperature. You don't want them to start getting too hot, because they will start losing grip, and around here you'll just find yourself in a nice tidy relationship, one of the concrete walls on either side. Of course, that the unforgiving concrete that will essentially rip the suspension and rip the tyres off the car. You can see just how much Speed Queen's getting out of the track there. She's within millimetres of the wall on the exit of turn 4 there. Joel still behind the Sauber as he kicks up dirt as he goes on the exit of turn 7. It's not quite close enough to get a move done into turn 8 and 9 there for the Toro Rosso driver, and we're going down towards the hairpin. Turn 10. The crowd once again watching this superb battle. It's now stretched out a little bit. Joel and Speed Queen have split out a little bit. They've started to leave SJD behind. It's currently 1.1 seconds behind, possibly saving a little bit of fuel, saving a little bit of battery. So Joel right up behind the Sauber. As we've got Ferrari power versus Honda power. Joel kicking up the dirt once again. He's going to be tucked up right behind the gearbox of the Sauber as we go down towards turn 1. Not quite close enough this time. and they're starting to close in to Scopefielder. Scopefielder not that far up the road, 2.4 seconds away, and the time is coming down lap upon lap. So Scopefielder on 12 lap old super soft tyres. Humbo Stone at the moment with a 17-second lead over the rest of the field. So it started well, and he's only, by the looks of it, stretching it out. So almost within another pit stop window. So if worse comes to worse for Humbo Stone, he could theoretically come in, set another set of the Hypersoft tyres towards the end of the race, and he would be absolutely mighty fast compared to the rest of the field. Joel just about get it slowed down in time. Almost a little bit of a mix up there for the Toro Rosso with his braking points, possibly a little bit looking down at his steering wheel, trying to get some modes changed, ready for the long straight here, the Casino Straight. Of course, on that man-made island, just to your left-hand side of the Casino Straight is the stretch of water that separates you from Montreal as they go side by side down into turn one, and this is the fight for third position at the moment. Still side by side. Speed Queen keeps the inside, but Joel switches back, tries to get the inside for turn three. Not quite there. Great defending for Speed Queen. There's still nose to tail, you can see. Speed Queen will see nothing but flashes of blue and red in her rear mirrors. I'm sure she'll know who sponsors the Toro Rosso behind, because it will be right there, of course, if she can read things backwards. But of course, it's DRS activated for Joel, and he's still desperate to get this move done past, and they're starting to really close into Scopefielder, 1.3 seconds behind. So Scopefielder is going to start to really interject himself into this battle, possibly holding up Speed Queen, which is only going to allow Joel and SJD back into the battle for what is currently podium positions. Looks like the race victory at the moment is going to Humbo Stone, and he would become our first ever double race victor. Of course, I don't want to hold my breath, or don't want to give anyone the commentator's curse or something. As Malk picks up a 3-second time penalty, the Toro Rosso once again right up behind the Sauber, heading down towards in turn one, decides against it. I believe its penalties might come down to it if these guys stay in the positions they are. I believe Speed Queen and Joel both have 3 to their name, and SJD has 1 to himself, I believe, as well. Humbo Stone equally having 3 seconds. Of course, battles going on up and down. You can see at the back 6th and 7th at the moment between Nicky 9095 and Delanga 93. Both cars on currently old super soft tyres. They've been running around for a long time. Nicky starting to look at the rear end of the Force India of Delanga 93. Scopefielder now well within striking range of the Sauber and Toro Rosso behind. So what this has done is it will benefit Speed Queen massively on this run down to turn 12 and turn 13. She'll get slipstream and DRS, and she's going to look to go down the inside of the Williams, heading down into the final corner. Do they get the move done? She does. So, and Joel's going to go down the inside. They're going to go side by side down into turn one. No, he doesn't. He pulls back in behind. Nicky picks up another time penalty, and Joel, not a great entry there into turn one for Joel. But he's going to have to get this move down past Scopefielder, heading to turn 3. They're going to go side by side. Still wheel to wheel, but Scope has to yield, allowing Joel to go past. But look at the amount of time he's lost there. It's 1.3 seconds he's lost behind the Williams in such a short span of time. The Renault of SJD 1988 now looking at the rear end of the Williams Scopefielder. Scope starting to fall down the field. Probably looking to go, well, definitely looking to go to the end. But it looks like at the moment, Joel V520's got a lot of work to do on those tyres if he's going to close up to the rear end of the Sauber. Once again, locks that front right, as we've seen as SJD diving down the inside of Scopefielder into the hairpin. Gets the move done, but Scope's going to come back at him. And they're going to go, it's a bad exit out of the hairpin for SJD. Look at the time he's lost. He's still got DRS on the Williams, but he's lost a whole heap of time there. Speed Queen 17 seconds behind as Mike picks up another time penalty there. 3 seconds, multiple warnings. Sitting at the moment in 10th position, so 1 point on the board for the Ferrari of Mike SI at the moment. And what we will do quickly is we'll go down and check on the battle between Nicky 9095, the man of 1,000 penalties. He's sitting as De Lange picks up 1, so possibly it's a magnetism thing being around the Toro Rosso. You find yourself running offline ever so slightly. And Nicky looking at the rear end of the Force India. Of course, De Lange won't know the extent that Nicky's got the penalty, so he could be he could allow Nicky to go past. As Nicky, you can see why he's picking up those penalties, just deciding to bypass the apex of turn 9 there. But what they are doing is, as De Lange goes deep into the corners, they are now starting to reel in SJ and Scopefielder. So Scopefielder really starting to hold up the cars that have been around him. So not a great race for Scopefielder. It did feel like he was doing quite nicely. SJD is going to go side by side with him down into the final corner. Decides against the overtake, but he's going to get DRS once again as we head down towards turn 1. Not close enough to get that move done. But Nicky and De Lange are still fighting over the position behind. But yeah, Scopefielder slowing up the progress of SJD, and you can see just how much time he's lost being sat behind this the Williams. And it would just feel like sitting on the M25 behind 3 double-decker buses, not being able to get past at all, and it'd be so frustrated because we saw that he had the pace earlier in the race to really make a challenge. But Humbo Stone has been a man in a different class today. Currently 18 laps on the super soft tyres. He's only lost 0.5 of a second to Speed Queen 80 behind. So Humbo Stone is going to take the race victory at the moment by an absolute mile, as long as nothing happens to the Haas driver. So Gunther Steiner will be absolutely delighted with his driver's progress, and not only would it be our first double race winner of the season, it will be 2 race victories in a row for Humbo Stone. So definitely the man in form at the moment, as SJD finally gets the move done past the Williams. The Scopefielder moves up into 4th position, whilst behind De Lange and Nicky still battling over 6th and 7th. Currently Nicky not able to get past the Force India as they head down into lap 34 of 35. So with 2 laps left to run, Humberstone leads with 16.8 second gap between him and the Sauber of Speed Queen. Joel V520 1.6 seconds behind the Sauber. SJD losing a whole heap of time, 3 seconds behind Joel, with Scopefielder currently just about holding on to 5th position, whilst De Lange and Nicky 9095 battle over 6th and 7th. Mama Fisher sitting in 8th position, but actually Nicky's going to go really deep into the corner. That's really compromised De Lange's exit on the exit of turn 9, and we've got rain falling in the air at the moment, so the sun has definitely disappeared, and we've now got spots of rain in the air. So we'll look to see, yeah, you can see it falling on the ground quite heavily on the exit of turn 10 there. So is this going to compromise the guys in the last lap? Of course, it would have to be something like of a monsoon event for really grip to fail, as these two are going to go side by side into the final corner, decide against Nicky picking up another time penalty. So I believe he's going to finish about 16 laps down with the amount of time penalties he's picked up this evening. But they will battle over this final lap, and it looks like Nicky might actually start to become under. Well, he will definitely come under threat as SJD picks up a 3-second time penalty. So we'll have to see if Scope's got any penalties. I don't believe I saw any for Scope so far in the race. So possibly SJD might lose out his 4th position. But yeah, Nicky really under threat from Mama Fisher. But we will quickly just check on board with Humberstone, as he's going to come down and take an absolutely dominating victory here at the Canadian Grand Prix in Montreal. And it's going to be some just adulation, and you can see side to side for the Haas driver. Absolutely delighted. He takes his 2nd race victory of the season, and congratulations to Humberstone, who picks up a fantastic race victory. Speed Queen is going to come home 2nd, so it will be Humberstone that takes the lead in the overall championship. Speed Queen comes home 2nd, and Joel V520 comes home 3rd. Where does SJ go? He does. So Joe Scopefielder moves up into 3rd position. Joel dropping down. So Joel, devastation there for Joel. Speed Queen and Nicky coming down almost, well, side by side. Less than a tenth between them, but Nikki really under threat from Mama Fisher coming across the line. We'll look to see if Nikki 995, of course, that steward's hearing might go on for a while, and yeah, Nikki does drop down behind Mama Fisher, who moves up into 7th. Malk is going to come back, and Malk and Mike enjoying a last lap battle. They go side by side down into turn 1. Malk picking up that 3-second time penalty. The rain's starting to come down now, and we can see these two in formation going across the line, and Malk takes 9th place and Mike picks up 10th in the Ferrari. Absolutely fantastic race there. Throughout the entire grid, we saw Humberstone with a truly dominant victory and a really, really impressive session for him. He takes the overall lead in the championship as we head into Belgium next week, whilst Speed Queen pushes her lead in the Tier 1 championship up ahead, with Scott not racing tonight, so she moves on to 57 points. So she sits 17 points ahead of Scott, whilst Joel moves up onto 33 points, I believe. So Joel still sitting in 3rd position. Scopefielder moving up into 3rd, that puts him on to 49 points in the season, and Humberstone up onto 59 points of the season. So Humberstone is your race winner in the Haas with that superb one-stop strategy. He comes in first with 3 seconds time penalty. So congratulations to Scope, who was the only one that managed to not pick up any time penalty. So Speed Queen comes in second, with Scopefielder moving up from 5th on track into 3rd after penalties. Joel drops down to 4th. SJD comes in 5th. Delanger 93 in 6th. Mama Fisher comes in 7th. Nikki 995, 24 seconds time penalties in 8th, with Malk in 9th. Now Mike takes 10th, and Tony unfortunately was our only non-finisher this evening. Possibly a technical issue for the Red Bull driver. He'd be really disappointed with how his race went this evening after being so promising in qualifying. Unfortunately, there must have been an issue between the qualifying and the race for him just to really fall off at the pace and struggle during the session. But what an absolutely blinding way to start our week here in Invictus Racing League. Of course, it's not the only race we have this week. We do have the Performance Leagues once again tomorrow night, Performance 1 and Performance 2, which you can find all of the details about on our Twitter at InvictusRL for your stream commentators and your stream links to make sure you catch up with the Performance Leagues, both 1 and 2 tomorrow evening. And then, of course, on Wednesday, it's our equal Performance Leagues, F1, F2 and F3. So a whole plethora of leagues that you can watch. Have 3 screens set up, watch all 3 at the same time, keep on tabs what's going on in Invictus, and it's essentially one of the one of the best places you can come to watch anywhere on PlayStation 4 for F1 esports. Some absolutely fantastic racing going on within our equal performance leagues, and of course across all of our leagues, whether that be No Assist and the Performance League. You can feel free to check me out on Twitter at G_Hall89. G_Hall_89, sorry, and I will be there to give you any guidance on how the streams are going and everything else. And of course, there are race write-ups on our website at invictusracingleagues.com. Check out our website where you can sign up and be part of the racing. Make sure you check out the sign-up page where you'll be able to drop in your details and speak to one of our admin team, who will be more than happy to get you involved in the league and getting you into a practice race. And of course, we can assess your pace and drop you into the right league that works best for you. But for me tonight, it's been lovely to have you all. Congratulations to Humberstone. Congratulations to Speed Queen and Scopefielder for picking up the podium positions. It's been a superb race. One of the best. One of the closest we've seen when it comes to battles on track. Of course, 4-car battles for the podium positions throughout the race. So congratulations to the entire grid tonight for providing some really, really good entertainment on track. And we head to Belgium next week for the famous Spa-Francorchamps Grand Prix up Radion and Eau Rouge. Whether you can name each one is definitely the task. But of course, changeable weather conditions always always in the air around Spa, and always a very interesting race there. So join us next Monday at 8 p.m. for that race. So for tonight, it's been me, Gareth, otherwise known as Captain Stiff, and good night, and thanks for joining me.